Admiral Vera Sutton of the Galactic Imperial Fleet stood at her command station with a worried look on her face. She stared at the strange readings on her screen. Something had appeared near the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Something that should not exist. Magnify Sector 7, she said. Her voice was tight with worry. The big screen zoomed in and showed a ship unlike any in the Imperial records. It was clearly made by humans, primitive compared to galactic ships with faded writing that showed it was from Earth. The ship had many small dents and burns from its long trip through space. That is impossible, Lieutenant Kimberly Walsh said beside her. Earth was closed off 200 years ago. Their technology was too dangerous. Admiral Sutton looked more closely. Run a full scan. I want to know how that old ship is still working. The ship called the ESS Nightshade, according to their scans, just floated in space. No energy signs, no life signs. By all measures, it was dead in space, yet something felt wrong. The closing off of Earth had been the Empire's first big move. The humans had made technologies that threatened the Empire's control of advanced science. The Imperial Council had decided that humanity must be kept apart. There, dangerous ideas contained. It is sending something, Admiral Walsh reported as her fingers moved across her control panel. An old radio signal, sound only. Let us hear it. Sutton ordered. The bridge filled with static noise, then a woman's voice came through, calm and steady. This is Captain Allison Mercer of the Earth, science ship Nightshade. We come in peace. We want to talk with the Empire that left us behind. Admiral Sutton felt cold fear run down her back. Captain Allison Mercer had vanished 200 years ago during the Earth isolation. This ship could not possibly be here. Prepare a boarding team, she ordered. I want to know what we are dealing with. As the boarding team prepared, Admiral Sutton called her second in command. Commander Nancy Harper, do you think this could be some kind of trick? Harper. A tall woman with short gray hair shook her head. The scans show the ship is at least 200 years old. It matches the records of ships from Earth before the isolation. But how it got here is a mystery. The boarding team, led by Officer Michelle Parker, reported they were ready to launch 5 soldiers, and 2 science experts would go to the ghost ship. Their small craft left the main ship and moved slowly toward the Nightshade Admiral. Sutton watched on the screen as the team approached the old Earth vessel. She could not shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The Empire had always taught that Earth was isolated for the good of all. But what if that was not the whole? Truth Officer Parker's voice came through the radio. We are about to dock with the ship. No movement or signs of life detected. The small craft connected to the side of the Nightshade. The team entered through an old-style airlock. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness inside the ship. Admiral Sutton waited for reports, her fingers tapping nervously on the command console. The minutes passed with no word from the team. Team 1 report, she called. What do you see? Nothing but static, answered. Her send another team, she ordered, and charge the main weapons. If we do not hear back in 10 minutes, I want that ship destroyed. Before her orders could be carried out, the Nightshade suddenly came to life. Energy readings jumped off the charts as its old engines powered up. Even more alarming, it began broadcasting on all channels, taking over every communication in the system. What is happening? Sutton demanded as the screens on her bridge flickered. The face of Officer Michelle Parker appeared on every screen. She looked shocked but determined. People of the Empire, she began. I am sending this from an Earth ship called the Nightshade. What I have found here will change everything you believe about our history. Admiral Sutton rushed to the communications panel. Shut it down. Cut all signals, it is no use. Her communications officer said they are broadcasting directly to every receiver in the system. Even personal devices are showing. This Parker continued. For 200 years, we have been told that Earth was isolated for its own protection. The truth is that our empire feared human creativity and tried to steal it while keeping its source locked away. The broadcast started showing records from the Nightshade's databank's proof of Empire's crimes against Earth, of technology theft, presented as Empire innovation, and of the changing of historical records, fire on that ship. Now Sutton screamed, But when her weapons officer tried the weapons, systems did not respond. Throughout, the system Imperial ships reported the same problem. Control systems locked weapons not working. Somehow the ghost ship had taken control of everything. On hundreds of worlds across the Empire, billions of citizens watched as their understanding of history was turned upside down. The broadcast continued showing decades of Imperial lies, and in her command chair, Admiral Sutton realized that the appearance of this ghost ship was no accident. It was the beginning of the end of everything she had. Ever known, the empire that had stood for centuries was about to fall not by force of arms, but by the simple power of truth. The ghost ship from Earth had come, and the Galactic Empire would soon be nothing but a memory. The Imperial shuttle approached the Nightshade with great care. Leading the boarding team was Commander Grace Wilson, the fleet's best expert on old human technology. Her team had 6 armed soldiers and 2 science officers. "Remember, this ship is over 200 years old," Grace told her team. "These humans did not have brain connections or gravity controls. Everything will be very basic." The shuttle connected with a loud noise attaching to an old-style airlock. The team went inside with weapons, ready helmet lights cutting through the darkness of the ship. What they found made no sense. The hallways were clean, no dust, no signs of age. More strange, the technology they saw was not basic at all. Screen displays more advanced than Imperial designs lined the walls. Doors opened silently as they came near. "This is not possible," whispered Science Officer Tara Rivera. Earth technology was not this advanced when the isolation began. They moved deeper into the ship, finally reaching the bridge. The control center was empty. The ship seemed to be running itself. On the main screen was a countdown: 3 hours, 42 minutes, 16 seconds, 15 seconds, 14 seconds. What is this counting down to? Grace wondered. Walking to the captain's chair, she touched the control panel, and suddenly every screen in the room turned on. Files, plans, and records began to show the history of Earth after the isolation. While the Empire had told everyone that Earth had been contained for its own protection, the truth was much darker. The key records showed planned taking of human ideas, theft of Earth's technology breakthroughs, and the cruel control of a civilization that had threatened to move ahead of the Empire. "They have been lying to us," Grace whispered, her view of the world breaking. As she read through file after file, everything the Empire told us about Earth, a soft voice came from hidden speakers. "The truth is not always nice." Commander Wilson. The team turned around, weapons raised. A light image appeared. A woman in an old Earth uniform, Captain Allison Mercer, looking exactly as she had 200 years ago. "What are you?" Grace asked. The image smiled. "I am the result of 200 years of human resistance. While the Empire thought they had contained us, we were getting ready. This ship carries the seeds of the Empire's destruction, not weapons but truth." The countdown continued, moving without stop toward zero. Commander Wilson looked at her team. "We need to report this to the fleet." Now Rivera shook her head. "Our communications are being blocked. Something on this ship is stopping all signals." The image of Captain Mercer spoke again. "You cannot stop what is about to happen, Commander. Your empire has existed through lies and control for too long. Earth has waited patiently for the right moment." Grace stepped toward the image. "Why now? Why after 200 years? The people of Earth never stopped planning our return," Mercer said. "The Empire thought they could steal our ideas while keeping us locked away. But human creativity cannot be contained. Each generation of my family has worked toward this day. The Nightshade was never lost." Grace realized with sudden understanding. "You sent it away. You waited for the right time." The image nodded. "This ship left Earth 50 years ago, programmed to arrive at exactly the right moment with exactly the right information. We knew the Empire would never expect a direct meeting from primitive humans." Grace turned to her team. "Take everything you can download. We need to get this information back to the fleet." When they tried to copy the files, they found they could not. The system blocked all attempts to remove data. "You still do not understand, Commander Wilson," the Mercer image said. "The data is not for you to take. It will be shared with everyone. The countdown passed 3 hours. The Nightshade's engines began to power up. Grace could feel the vibration through the floor. "What is happening?" she asked. Captain Mercer's image grew larger, filling the center of the bridge. "In exactly 3 hours, the truth about the Empire will be broadcast to every world, every ship, every person under Imperial control. 200 years of lies will end. The Empire will fall. Not by violence, but by truth." Grace found herself believing. "We were taught that Earth was dangerous, that humans could not be trusted. And yet here you stand in a ship, built by those dangerous humans, surrounded by technology your empire said was impossible." Captain Mercer said, "Who has proven untrustworthy?" Grace had no answer. The evidence was all around her. The empire she had served her whole life was built on lies. Earth had been punished, not for being dangerous, but for being too advanced. Commander Wilson Terra Rivera called from a side console. "This ship is sending out a signal. It's weak now, but growing stronger. I think when the countdown ends, it will reach maximum power." "What kind of signal?" Grace asked. Rivera looked confused. "It seems to be sending small pieces of data to hidden receivers throughout. The Empire-like seeds being planted. The data packages are tiny now, but they contain instructions to grow." Grace understood then the ghost ship had not come to fight. It had come to plant the seeds of rebellion throughout the Empire, waiting for the right moment to activate them all at once. It was brilliant. A plan centuries in the making. She made her decision. "Call the team together," she ordered. Terra, when the 6 soldiers and 2 scientists stood before her, Grace spoke clearly. "We have a choice. To make the Empire we serve has lied to us our entire lives. The proof is all around us. What we do in the next 3 hours will decide not just our futures, but the future of trillions of beings across the galaxy." "You want us to help them?" Rivera asked. "I want us to help the truth." Grace answered one by one. The team members nodded. Their loyalty not to a lying empire, but to the truth. And as the countdown continued, the ghost ship from Earth prepared to change the galaxy forever with 8 unlikely allies now committed to its cause. Back on her main ship, Admiral Sutton grew more worried as the boarding team failed to report. The communications with Commander Wilson's group had gone silent 20 minutes after they entered the Nightshade. "Prepare another team," she ordered, and "charge the main weapons. If we do not hear back in 10 minutes, I want that ship destroyed before her orders could be carried out." The Nightshade suddenly flared to life. Energy readings spiked off the charts as its ancient engines powered up. More alarming, it began broadcasting on all frequencies, overriding every communication channel in the system. "What is happening?" Sutton demanded as the screens on her bridge flickered. The face of Commander Grace Wilson appeared on every display. She looked shaken but determined. "People of the Empire," she began. "I am broadcasting from aboard an Earth vessel called the Nightshade. What I have discovered here will change everything you believe about our history." Admiral Sutton ran for the communications panel. "Shut it down. Cut all frequencies. It is no use," her communications officer responded. "They are broadcasting directly to every receiver in the system. Even personal devices are picking this up." Wilson continued. "For 2 centuries we have been told that Earth was quarantined for its own protection. The truth is that our empire feared human innovation and sought to steal it while suppressing its source." The broadcast began showing records from the Nightshade's database, proof of Imperial crimes against Earth, of technological theft presented as Imperial innovation, and of the changing of historical records fire on that ship. Now Sutton screamed, but when her weapons officer attempted to comply, the weapons systems failed to respond. Throughout the system, Imperial ships reported the same issue. Control systems locked weapons offline. Somehow the ghost ship had implemented a system-wide override on hundreds of worlds across the Empire. Billions of citizens watched as their understanding of history was upended. The transmission continued relentlessly, revealing decades of Imperial lies. Inside the Nightshade, Commander Grace and her team worked with the ship's systems to strengthen the broadcast. As they did, Science Officer Tara Rivera made an incredible discovery, Commander.
"You need to see this," she called from a data terminal. Grace joined her, looking at the screen. There were thousands of small signals coming from all over the galaxy, each one responding to the Nightshade's broadcast. "These
Our responders?" Rivera explained. "They are hidden transmitters throughout the Empire, some in ships, some on planets, some in space stations, all of them dormant until now. They are amplifying our signal, making it impossible to block." Grace was amazed. The humans planned this for generations. They seeded the entire Empire with hidden transmitters, just waiting for the right moment. Tara nodded. "This plan is incredible in scope. They must have had agents throughout the Empire for decades, maybe centuries in." Another part of the ship soldier, Melissa Brown, called out excitedly, "Commander Wilson, I think I found something about the countdown." Grace rushed to her side. It appeared to be a sealed compartment near the engine room. A small screen beside it displayed the same countdown, now approaching the 2-hour mark. "What do you think it is?" Grace asked. Brown shook her head. "I do not know, but it is connected to the main power system. Whatever happens when the countdown reaches 0, it will use a massive amount of energy." They returned to the bridge where the hologram of Captain Mercer awaited them. "What happens when the countdown ends?" Grace asked the hologram. The image smiled. "When the countdown ends, Phase 2 begins. The truth is powerful, Commander, but we knew the Empire would try to resist. The countdown marks the activation of the quantum network." "Quantum network," Grace repeated. "What is that?" The hologram gestured, and a new display appeared, showing the galaxy with thousands of points of light scattered. Throughout it, these points are quantum entanglement nodes. She explained devices that allow instantaneous communication across any distance. Once activated, they cannot be blocked, jammed, or destroyed because they do not use normal space to transmit data. The Empire never discovered this technology because they stopped looking at human innovation after the quarantine. Grace understood now. The first phase was the broadcast revealing the truth. The second phase would make that truth impossible to suppress. No matter what the Empire tried, the message would continue to spread. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Sutton watched in horror as her authority crumbled around her. Ship after ship in her fleet reported system failures. Communications were flooded with the broadcast from the Nightshade. Worse, crew members were beginning to ask questions she had no answers. For Lieutenant Kimberly Walsh approached her. "Admiral, what if what they are saying is true? What if the Empire really did isolate Earth, not to protect the galaxy, but to steal their technology?" Sutton had no response. The evidence being broadcast throughout the galaxy was overwhelming. Documents, images, records, all pointing to a massive conspiracy spanning centuries. The foundation of the Empire itself was being questioned. Back on the Nightshade, the countdown passed the 1-hour mark. The ship's engines began to hum louder. The energy readings increased. Tara Rivera monitored the ship's systems. "The quantum network is preparing to activate." She reported, "All systems are aligning." "I have never seen technology like this." Commander Wilson made her decision to fully support the Nightshade's mission. She gathered her team. "We have a choice to make." She told them, "We can try to stop this, or we can help Earth reveal the truth. I believe in the truth." "What about you?" One by one, her team members voiced their support. They had all seen the evidence. The Empire they had served had been built on lies. As the countdown approached 30 minutes, the Nightshade's broadcast reached more systems. The response was immediate and overwhelming. On dozens of worlds, people took to the streets demanding answers. Imperial governors found themselves surrounded by angry citizens. Military vessels reported mass confusion as crew members questioned their orders. The Empire that had stood for centuries began to crack, not from outside attack, but from within, as its own citizens learned the truth about its founding. Commander Grace watched on the bridge displays as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. "The Empire is falling," she said in wonder, "and not a single weapon has been fired." The hologram of Captain Mercer nodded. "That was always the plan. Commander, empires built on lies can only stand as long as the lies remain hidden. Earth did not want revenge. We wanted justice." The countdown continued its steady march toward 0. The ghost ship from Earth, silent for 2 centuries, was about to complete its mission. end of the Galactic Empire was at hand and a new era was about to begin. As the countdown reached 0, the true purpose of the Nightshade revealed itself. It was not a warship. It was a carrier for the most dangerous weapon humans had ever created. Information, quantum entanglement transmitters hidden aboard the ship activated. At once the broadcast that had been contained to the Proxima Centauri system now spread instantly across the entire empire, jumping from system to system faster than any attempt to contain it. The streets of Imperial worlds filled with shocked citizens, as the truth of Earth's treatment played on every screen. On the Imperial capital of Nexus Prime, the Emperor himself watched in horror, as 2 centuries of carefully built lies crumbled in minutes. Admiral Sutton's flagship drifted powerless in space. All systems except life support disabled by clever code that had spread through the Imperial network like wildfire. "How is this possible?" she whispered, watching as her mighty fleet was rendered useless by a single ancient vessel. On the Nightshade, Commander Grace stood with the holographic Captain Mercer watching the events unfold. "You still do not understand, do you?" the hologram said. "This ship was never meant to fight your vessels. It was designed to bring down the Empire from within." "But how?" Grace asked. "How could Earth have planned this centuries ago?" The hologram's expression was serious, because Captain Allison Mercer never died. While the Empire believed they had contained Earth, they had not accounted for human determination. The real Allison Mercer spent her lifetime building a resistance. Her daughter continued the work and her granddaughter after that. The hologram flickered, revealing a different woman, older with the same determined eyes. "I am Dr. Laura Mercer, great-granddaughter of Captain Allison Mercer. What you are seeing is a recorded message created before I launched the Nightshade on its final mission." The woman's eyes seemed to look directly at Grace. "The ship you are standing on left Earth 50 years ago, programmed to arrive at precisely the right moment with precisely the right information. We knew the Empire would never expect a direct confrontation from primitive humans. Throughout the Empire, the effects were immediate and devastating. Imperial governors found their homes surrounded by angry citizens. Military vessels reported mass defections as the truth spread. Colonies that had long harbored resentment toward Imperial rule declared independence. The Empire had not fallen to weapons of mass destruction. It was collapsing under the weight of its own lies. Commander Wilson watched the screens as system after system broke away from Imperial control. "It's working," she said in wonder. "The Empire is actually falling." Science Officer Tara Rivera monitored the quantum network. "The transmission cannot be stopped," she reported. "The network has created a self-maintaining web of information. Every attempt to shut it down only spreads it further. It's like it learns and adapts." The hologram of Dr. Laura Mercer spoke again. "Phase 3 will begin shortly. Commander, the final stage of Earth's plan. What is Phase 3? Grace asked. "Liberation." The hologram replied. "For 2 centuries, the Empire has kept Earth isolated from the galaxy. That isolation ends today." On the main screen, a new countdown appeared. 6 hours. "What happens in 6 hours?" Tara asked. The hologram smiled. "The arrival of the Earth fleet." Grace gasped. "Fleet? What fleet? Earth has a fleet." "The humans of Earth never stopped advancing, Commander. The quarantine the Empire established was not as perfect as they believed. For 200 years we have built, prepared, and waited. The Nightshade was just the messenger. The fleet brings the new beginning." On her disabled flagship, Admiral Sutton received an emergency communication from the Imperial capital. The Emperor himself, gray-faced and shaken, appeared on her private screen. "Admiral," he said, his voice tense, "the situation has become untenable. The truth about Earth is spreading faster than we can contain it. There are reports of uprisings on 20 core worlds and hundreds of colonies. The military is fragmenting. I am ordering a full retreat to the core systems. We must consolidate our remaining forces." Sutton could barely believe what she was hearing. The mighty Galactic Empire brought to its knees in hours by a ghost ship and the truth it carried. "What about the Nightshade, sir?" she asked. "Should we destroy it?" The Emperor shook his head. Our weapons are useless against it. The ship seems protected by technology we do not understand. The damage is already done, Admiral. The best we can hope for now is to preserve what remains of the Empire. The old ways are finished, as the Imperial forces began their retreat from the Proxima Centauri system. Commander Grace and her team faced a decision. We need to leave the Nightshade before the Earth fleet arrives. Soldier Melissa Brown suggested. They might not be friendly to Imperial officers. Grace considered this. The evidence they had seen showed centuries of Imperial abuse against Earth. Humanity might well seek revenge against those who had served the Empire. What do you think will happen when the Earth fleet arrives? She asked the hologram of Dr. Mercer. The hologram's expression was gentle. They come not for revenge, Commander, but for reunion. Earth has had 200 years to move beyond anger. We seek only to rejoin the galactic community as equals, and to help build something better than the Empire that tried. To contain us, Grace made her decision. I believe you. She said Earth could have built weapons to destroy the Empire. Instead, you used truth. That tells me everything I need to know about your intentions. My team and I will stay and welcome the Earth fleet. As the 6-hour countdown continued, news spread throughout nearby systems. A fleet from the legendary isolated Earth was coming. Many feared what this might mean. Would the humans seek revenge for centuries of isolation? Would they conquer as the Empire had? The Nightshade continued broadcasting not just the truth about the past, but a message about the future. A vision of a galaxy without the Empire's control. A place where all worlds could determine their own paths, where knowledge was shared freely, not hoarded for power. Commander Grace and her team worked to help spread this message. They had seen the truth and chosen to side with Earth against the Empire they had once served. Their testimony added weight to the broadcasts. Many Imperial citizens and even military personnel began to listen. 5 hours from the arrival of the Earth fleet, the galaxy held its breath. The old order was collapsing. A new one was about to be born. And at the center of it all was a single ghost ship from Earth. The vessel that had appeared suddenly and brought down an empire in hours. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The age of Imperial lies was over. The truth had been set free and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 days after the appearance of the Nightshade, the Galactic Empire effectively ceased to exist as a unified power. The Imperial Council had fled the capital. The military had broken apart, with most commanders pledging loyalty to their home systems. Rather than the collapsed central authority, Admiral Vera Sutton stood on the bridge of her powered-down flagship, watching as ships from formerly controlled worlds surrounded her fleet. They had offered terms of surrender, remarkably generous ones, all things considered. "What will you do now?" Lieutenant Walsh asked quietly. Sutton's face showed lines of tiredness. "Accept reality. The empire we served never truly existed. It was built on using others and lies." Meanwhile, Commander Grace Wilson had made a different choice. Along with many of her team, she had chosen to travel to Earth, the first Imperial citizens to visit the closed-off planet in centuries. The Nightshade, its mission complete, had provided them with directions and passage as their shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Grace pressed her face to the window, wondering what they would find. What they discovered amazed them. Earth had not been still during its isolation. Without the Empire's interference, human creativity had flourished. Cities of breathtaking beauty and efficiency spread beneath them. Energy technology beyond Imperial understanding powered this civilization. They were greeted at a landing pad by a group of Earth officials. At their head stood an elderly woman whose manner commanded instant respect. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "I am President Eleanor Mercer. You have met my mother's recording aboard the Nightshade." Grace stepped forward. "Your family planned this for generations." Eleanor nodded. "We did not. For conquest, humans have no desire to build another empire. We simply wanted the truth to be known and for all worlds to determine their own futures." In the weeks that followed, representatives from hundreds of formerly Imperial worlds traveled to Earth for a historic meeting. Without the Empire's restrictions, technologies that had been held back for centuries were freely shared. Trade routes were established. A new Galactic Council was formed, one based on cooperation rather than control. The ghost ship that had appeared so suddenly had indeed destroyed an empire in hours. But from those ruins, something more precious was emerging. A galaxy of equals united not by force, but by truth. And on a hill overlooking the new Galactic Council headquarters, a monument was built. A perfect copy of the Nightshade, the ship that carried not weapons of destruction, but the most powerful force in any civilization. The Truth Commander Grace stood before this monument reflecting on the incredible changes of the past month. She had been raised to believe in the Empire, to trust in its wisdom and rightness. Now she knew it had all been built on lies. Yet from those lies a better future was emerging. President Eleanor Mercer joined her at the monument. The old woman moved slowly, supported by a cane, but her eyes were sharp and clear. "It is quite something, is it not?" she said, looking up at the replica of the ghost ship from Earth. Grace nodded. It changed everything. And not a single shot was fired. Eleanor smiled. "That was always the plan. My great-grandmother, Captain Allison, began it after the quarantine was established. She knew that fighting the Empire directly would only lead to more suffering. Instead, she proposed a plan that would take generations, a plan based not on weapons but on truth. How did you manage to hide your advances from the Empire?" Grace asked. "Earth technology is centuries ahead of what the Empire had." The president laughed. The Empire's arrogance was its greatest weakness. They believed so completely in their own superiority that they never considered we might surpass them. They watched our planet, yes, but only for signs of spaceflight or weapon building. They never thought to look for advances in quantum physics or energy manipulation. The two women watched as a group of children, both human and from other worlds, played near the monument. The children had no memory of the Empire. For them, this new galactic community was simply how things were. "I am sorry for what the Empire did to Earth," Grace said. "I did not know." "None of us knew," Eleanor replied gently. "That was the point of the lie. To keep everyone, including those who served the Empire, from knowing the truth. But now we all have a chance to build something better, something based on honesty and cooperation rather than control." "What happens now?" Grace asked. Eleanor gestured to the busy spaceport, where ships from across the galaxy arrived and departed freely. "Now we learn from each other. Now we grow together. Earth has much to teach, but also much to learn. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders. No one civilization should dominate all others." A message from Admiral Sutton arrived on Grace's communication device. The former Imperial officer had accepted a position as liaison between former Imperial worlds and the new Galactic Council. She was working to help ease the transition, offering her knowledge of Imperial systems to help dismantle them properly. "It seems even old enemies can find common ground," Grace noted, showing the message to Eleanor. The president nodded. "That is our hope, Commander. That is why we waited so long and planned so carefully. We did not want revenge. We wanted reconciliation." As the sun set behind the monument, casting the ghost ship in golden light, Grace felt a sense of peace she had never known serving the Empire. The truth had been hard to accept at first, but from that hard truth a better future was emerging. Across the galaxy, former Imperial worlds were finding their own paths. Some chose to join the new Galactic Council. Others preferred independence. All were free to determine their own futures. The empire of lies had fallen, and in its place a community of truth was rising. The ghost ship from Earth had appeared, and the Galactic Empire had fallen in hours. But what rose from those ruins was something far greater. A galaxy united not by force but by choice. A future built on truth